Well, Ross, welcome to the Bonner Breakdown. It's good to have you.
Well, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, and Ross, you and I go back a few years.
We do.
You know, we've known each other, probably 10 years?
I think so.
9 years.
Is it 9?
Yeah,
Okay.
9 years. Since I remember meeting you at the River of Life for a Tracy Armstrong event, I think was the first time we
no
met.
kidding.
Yep. So that was 9 years ago.
Yes.
So that time flies, my friend.
Dear me, to see how you've championed Sandpoint in so many ways is so good.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yep. Again, welcome to the show. We always start off with what we call the good report, and we're always looking for something that's of good news, and that is something worthy of celebration, right? Because we like to celebrate good news, and we have finally starting to see some momentum in people realizing that we need affordable housing. Everybody talks about it, but people are actually like going, oh, this is real now, which is really good. I think that for public awareness for the housing agency, I think it's good for the community, so people can start to pool together some ideas and resources to try and address the problem. So to me, it's good news that people are becoming aware, of the issue more and more, which is good. You got any good news?
Well, related to that, Aspen has been our model years ago. In the service industry, they had to go 15, 20 miles out of town for living.
Yep.
And if you look at Zillow right now, I got a couple from Zillow today that I just could not believe in terms of the requirements to buy a little shack here. So I think you're doing something real good.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
we're going for it. You know. Yeah. So, I'm excited for the next season of what's going to happen in Sandpoint and what's going to happen in the area. And you've been around a long time here, and you were raised here, and we're going to dive into some of that. But for those of you who don't know Ross Hall, Ross, give us the breakdown. Who are you? And give us kind of a synopsis of your story.
Well, I'm a Chamber of Commerce advertising for Sandpoint. Born here, First Avenue. Great story. I just got this from my mother just before she died. Hazel Hall. A lot of people know Hazel Hall. But she gave birth to me on First Avenue in a home there. And here's how it went. She was down in the basement printing pictures, Ross Hall pictures. And she says, "Oop, I've got to go." And she walked the 4 blocks down First Avenue. And Dr. Wendell, who some people know, called Ross Hall Sr. and says, "Get down here. You have a baby right now." And that's the self-sufficiencies of ladies in North Idaho at that time. But
Wow.
I was born here. And then the next year, World War II started, impacted this city enormously because the next year, here comes Farragut. 300,000 people being trained, and my dad was the head photographer, taking a picture of all 300,000 of them.
Wow.
And that was the largest base other than in Chicago for the Navy. And so that's how we kind of started. One thing from Hazel, for you historian people, by 1942, they had machine guns on the top of City Hall, thinking that the Japanese were coming right into Sandpoint, So it's that kind of thing. And so I grew up here, left at age 18, came back at age 66, is the story. But I went to Sandpoint High School and Farming School that's no longer there. It's a bank there now. And I was mentored and scared by Charlie Stidwell. So some of the people listening know about Charlie, and he ran this town. And for the young kids, and so that's it. And then went to University of Idaho, and so that's kind of a quick shot. Yeah.
So you left at 18, and you went into planning, was it? Or
Well, I went to University of Idaho. We're third generation University of Idaho. Our granddaughter said she's going to go to U of I this week, so we're excited about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I went back to Washington, D.C., worked with U.S. Census Bureau,
Okay.
and took 5 jobs in 6 years in 5 different states, and climbing, and ended up as a city planner in San Diego
Okay.
for 6 years, and that's part of that story.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So you were in San Diego, and what'd you end up doing after that?
Well, I started getting restless. You know, here I was at a young age, and I couldn't go any further.
Did you know Leslie at this point?
Well, indeed. I'll back up for a moment. I met her at University of Idaho
Okay.
grad school. I said, "Who is this?" So that night we went out. We went out every night. She went home and announced the first night that I think I found the guy I'm going to marry.
Oh, that's so great.
Isn't that kind of good stuff? Yeah. So that's it. So Leslie and I have now been married 53 years.
That's awesome.
We've been business partners for 42 years. We've roamed in most of the states, teaching people how to operate business. Put 1,000 miles on our cars, 1,000,000 miles in our cars, and 1,000,000 miles flying, and we tromped around the stages and tried to teach people how to own their own company. And so we had started one in San Diego.
San Diego, and specifically, if you're gonna give a context for people, that business was Amway.
Yeah, an affiliate marketing company that's gone through so many transitions. Back then, it was practically door to door.
Right.
Now it's on your phone.
Yep. And so, you've been doing that for
42 years.
42 years.
Just kind of wandering around, trying to figure out what to do at that time.
Yeah.
And then we set up a training company, and that expanded and was in 77 cities before they shut down last year. And so it's been quite a journey. It's a fun journey.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And of course, you haven't stopped.
Oh.
You're going full steam with all new leadership, vision, all new. Like, you just keep going after, helping people develop and build their income streams, right?
Yeah. We carry good news with us. And can't keep it to ourselves. But when I came up here 15 years ago, I looked at my age and I said, "Well, gee, maybe this is it." And because we didn't have all the things we have now, whether it's Zoom or video and internet or cell phones and all that. So
cell phones were just really starting to pick up speed.
Yeah. And so I says, "Look, and I live in the mountains, and there's no people around here much." So, and then things changed. Technology came along. I met you.
Yeah.
Which has been an inspiring thing from day one. Really.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Not only are you a top entrepreneur for Sandpoint, Bonner County, but you influence people in different spectrums.
Yeah.
And one of those is spiritual climate of this community. So
Yeah, I appreciate that. I I think once you find out what you're passionate about, and then the things that your gifts are kind of well suited for, and when they all start blending together, you just can't let go.
Exactly.
It just kind of flows.
Yeah.
Cool. So you moved here 15 years ago.
I did.
That would have been in 2006.
Yeah, right in there.
Okay, because I got here in 2005.
Okay.
So that you don't know how many people that I think 2020 is going to be one of those. 2021 is going to be one of those 0506s, because I know so many people that moved here in 0506.
Oh man,
I meet them all the time. I'm like, no, wait, when, what day? Like, did we cross the Long Bridge at the same time? Did we go through the portal?
That's right, the portal.
So I mean, I see so many people that all came in 0506. That's really interesting. But
Isn't it?
Yeah, go ahead. So you came in 06.
Yeah.
And you just decided that you were going to retire?
I didn't know where to go. I knew I'd take my energy, and so I put a lot of it into Ponderay Bay Trail. And then I had some comments, being the believer that I am. I said, "Look, I think we can do a lot more in terms of community and connecting and having a National Day of Prayer and some of those things. So I
Mm-hmm.
occupied myself in that time. Yeah.
Which the National Day of Prayer is coming up next Thursday.
Well, it is.
Yep. And yours truly is going to be leading some worship, so that'll be fun. I haven't led worship there before, so
Oh man,
that'll be
strumming the guitar. Oh
yep,
dear
and
me.
Annalie will be on the keys with me.
Yeah.
And it not only will
good.
be in Farman Park live downtown, which we didn't do last year because
Right.
of the COVID protocols, and this year we're doing it live online and in the park.
I think that's so
for the
good.
people that want to watch online, they can go to Pray 7B on Facebook, and you'll see a live stream there. So, but just that's a side plug, I guess. But
Well, sure.
yeah. So you're you moved here in '06. You had some energy. Thought, man, let's start National Day of Prayer. Let's dive into doing some of this other stuff. What else have you been up to?
Well, in that period of time, that was about it. Trying to adjust from 30 plus years in the high-speed city, San Diego, which I loved it, and kind of a slow-down period at that point. And then at, let's see, about 2010, I said, I'm getting restless here. And so I started to understand that everything's changing and how we operate business. In fact, I've identified 8 trends since the beginning of last year. If you don't catch those trends, uh-oh.
Yeah, like the challenge trend that you and I are like, and that's a big one right now. Yeah, we've talked about some of them. That's good.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
it. And enjoying Leslie the whole time. And of course, we have our restaurants we like here in the lake. Why would we leave? Huh?
I know. You pinch yourself sometimes,
Yes.
and you sit on that beautiful deck of Trinity, and you have a pecan crusted chicken salad, right, Ross? That's what we do. So we have our pecan crusted chicken salad and stare out at the lake and go, "Is this real life?"
Oh
And,
man.
yeah, I was privileged to have Justin on the program during COVID when they were struggling with the restaurant being shut down, and lots of big plans for them coming down the road.
Indeed,
Here.
and we're excited about that.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be really good. Well, I'm really curious. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show for a long time, because you're just really easy to talk to. You got great stories, but I think it'd be really cool for people to hear a little bit more about Sandpoint back in the day.
Back in the day.
So you've got a ton of great stories, and
I do.
Your dad told a lot of stories and images. And his pictures are some of the most iconic images of Sandpoint and of this region. And I think a lot of people are just now putting together, recognizing that the name matches the little inscription at the bottom of the black and white photos that they see all over Sandpoint.
Yes.
And I think it's just great that you carry that heritage. You carry that legacy. So tell us a little bit about your mom and dad.
Well, I'd be happy to, but I have to take one note, and that's my brother Dan.
Yeah.
Dan revived Ross Hall Photos.
Really?
And
Love it.
This is his 40th year. But nothing better than to dig through the negatives, of which there are 60, 70,000 of them.
Wow.
And find one and say, well, I'm going to have to repair it, restore it. Used to call retouching and all those kind of things. And so Ross wouldn't recognize some of his photos now. Dan has enhanced him so beautifully. Just like Ansel Adam and his son, same kind of thing.
Beautiful.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, and Dan's amazing.
Oh, he is.
He's so fun to hang out with. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Ross and Hazel, 1932 January, snowy, arriving at the train depot down there, and here they get off, and they were both millennials. Hazel was 19 years of age, and he was part of a group of millennials that started to contribute in that period of time, playing cards and bridge and things that didn't cost anything. But they had great dreams of Sandpoint at that point. So Ross and Hazel get off the train right there, and here comes the police. And they come up there. Are you Ross Hall? Yes. You're under arrest. And so Hazel's eyes popped, and they played it to the hilt. And so that was a fun thing. I talked to Hazel later. In fact, when he moved up here, I spent pretty much a little bit of time every day for 5 years. And so I got a lot of stories, a lot of pictures, and so on. But she said she had $20 hidden away in her purse that she never told Ross. And Ross had 60 cents. And so that's how it started. Yeah. And so they went through that period of time. And in 1938, they purchased the Heim studio. And they threw in the shack behind the studio. It isn't there now. And threw in a car also. So he didn't have to ride his bike anymore. And they went to work. So they were young entrepreneurs, millennials, and said, let's go to work. And so that's what they decided to do. Yeah. And if he had his choice, it would run around every mountaintop and drive every road and see every animal and see every waterfalls. And, that's the...
Right, with a camera in hand.
In hand, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And who was born first?
I have a sister.
Okay.
Beautiful sister, age 84, lives in Spokane.
Okay.
And then my brother is 7 years younger. Yeah.
Okay.
So the three of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in the middle.
I am.
Okay. And there's a great picture of your mom on the Long Bridge.
Oh, yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, I can't tell you a lot about it. I know the other person with her was Mary Lee Pyatt, not alive anymore, but worked for Ross, the Ross Hall Studio, it was called right then. And, that was the old wooden bridge that went right down First Avenue, as you know, right where that nice white home is. And very proud of that. Longest wooden bridge in the world, click, clack, click, clack, click, clack, as you drive along. So, but the wonder of all the water, the wonder of it. And I have a couple other pictures of Ross, self-portraits up on Gold Mountain when he just got here, and they are fantastic.
Wow, because that's pre-dam era.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah, don't get me started on that.
Why not?
That's a river. Okay.
It's
Lake Pend Oreille was a river coming through this. In fact, I almost could go all the way across to 41 South, walking. You don't realize that now, but that's the situation. And so it'd go up and down, and we were in the lumber industry. Of course, that's what drove this city at that time. And Hubbard Mill was down there. You and I have been there, Pend Oreille Bay Trail, and still the remains. People wonder, what is this? Is this some kind of thing from the Grecian era or something? No,
just a lumber mill.
Lumber mill, biggest.
Not even that old.
That's right, 1929. They told me it's the largest of in the Northwest, Weyerhaeuser, and but they had to have the railroad track out 2,000 feet to bring the logs out to drop into the water, and
wow.
So it's that kind of situation, yeah. The whole Pend Oreille Bay Trail and what we call bum jungle, which that's part of our roots.
People don't know it. If people who move here would be like, bum jungle.
Bum jungle. What?
Yeah, but no, that was people who rode the rails would get off there and they'd stay in the woods there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And as part of the Pend Oreille Bay Trail, Steve Gill did a lot of environmental work down there, got a lot of funding, found out that there were 24 homes down there, and some of them walked to school. One of them had a boat, and quite a story. And there was a store down there, and there's where they got the coal and dropped it in there, and yes, a different story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, like, what time period was that?
Well, that would be Ross and Hazel bought the shoreline in 1966.
66, okay.
And so if we go way back, it just deteriorated for those years, and people got off the trail, off the rails, and
yeah, they had their own
did their
store. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And we still meet people down there. When I walk parts of our property down there, they're a younger crowd, but we try to comfort them and take them down to Connie's and have breakfast,
Yeah. So, Ross and Hazel are mainstays now. They slowly became natives, right? They moved up here in the 30s, and Ross was obviously did work during the 40s with the naval base.
Right.
And then how do you make a living as a photographer in the 50s?
Well, I tell you, you don't make money hiking up mountains and taking pictures. Okay, not that. That's what he wanted to do, but I think he took senior pictures for maybe 20 years. He never complained, but that wasn't his love affair that paid a couple bills. Yeah, and then out with the weddings, all of that photographer stuff. And that,
I mean, how cool would it be to look back and go, yeah, Ross Hall did my mother or my grandmother's senior prom photo, or the yearbook photo. That's cool.
Oh, that's right. And if you go into Ross Hall Photo Collection, where Dan is at the gallery right there, you should see it. He is doing some things now that are unparalleled. If a person goes in there, but he has had literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people come in. I got a Ross Hall photo, or hey, look at this. Is this valuable now? And he's a good storyteller. And,
oh yeah.
And so it's quite an experience to be with Dan in that setting there.
Oh, that's fabulous. So you came on the scene.
Yes.
And what are some of your very first memories of Sandpoint?
Well, one of them, Elvis Presley came to town in January 1956, Heartbreak Hotel.
Come on.
And less than 2 years later, we had soda hops and plaid floors and hoops and oh, dear me.
Everybody got hit with it.
That's revolution right there. I remember still Elvis. What's that sound? What's that sound? And so that's a good one. So I went to farming school, of course, and then went over to what is called the event center, and that was junior high, and senior up there, where the middle school now is. Yeah. What do I remember? Kind of an idyllic situation.
Right.
We've had a poster for years. Couldn't find it recently, but it says Idaho is what America was. And now I say Sandpoint is what America was. Okay. And we're so proud of this little town in so many ways.
Yeah.
Wow.
Growing up, how was the education? What I mean, looking back, how was it?
Well, I'll tell you a couple of things, of course. On the speaker system every day, they read Psalms. Okay. And so we do that. And Pledge of Allegiance, and a different atmosphere. But one of the biggies there was something called the World Series with the Mickey Mantle, and the teachers allowed us to take radios into the class.
Wow.
And listen to the World Series. Willie, Mickey, oh, oh, that was so important for some of us,
Oh, yeah.
And the baseball cards came out, and you know the whole story.
Wow.
There. So that was good. But fishing, absolutely, that was part of us, and pretty much of a harmless situation. In that sense, yes, we did a few things. I could explain a couple of those. I won't because statutes and limitations are gone.
Yeah, that's probably smart. Okay. Someone's holding on to that
savvy.
bill. Someone's holding on to that bill.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit. I am curious about what changed with the when they put in the Cabinet Gorge Dam.
Well, that was substantial, because we'd have floods. A flood of '48, downtown, and waves. Certainly shelter threatening. I don't think anybody died, but and you never could count on what was going to happen. Go way down, go way up, and so Ross was hired to take pictures. He was a commercial photographer. Great stuff. Nobody's ever seen it now, but building the dams on both ends, of course.
Well, and and if you go into the visitor center there, they've got photos of the construction and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Those would be Ross Hall photos probably. But what happened, and it has an impact right on Ponderay Bay Trail, because that's caused the erosion. So for the first time, high water slushing against the shoreline, washing it away. And so it's been 35 years traumatically to put together the shoreline again. And so when it was purchased, it was inaccessible, but it wasn't eroded. And so it's been the Army Corps. It's their poster child now. As I've talked to them, they say, "Hey, this is the best thing Army Corps has ever done."
Wow, cool.
Now it was just rocks and 4 different places they had to put rocks in over that period of time, but now it's all self-grown up, and it looks like it's been there forever. It hasn't been, okay? Yeah, but that's that erosion around the lake, and the millions and millions and millions that had to be put together to shore up things. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did it impact the docks? Yeah. Okay, we're going to have to put in docks at a different level, and there's ramifications and all that.
Right. Yeah. And so it went from chaotic and not knowing when it was going to flood,
right,
to having some consistency.
Exactly.
Right. And so how did that impact the city, and how did it impact the community?
Well, I am not sure. That's really a good question. Certainly, we have more camping areas around now that have been put in there by the Army Corps, and we appreciate that a bunch, and a lot of people love that. I don't know. Employment, yes, there's some employment at the 2 dams and that, but I don't have a lot of insight on that.
Yeah, it just probably gave people more peace of mind, I would imagine.
Oh, yes, for sure. And of course, a lot of people are grumping. Fishing isn't it good, or it's better, or whatever, goes up and down.
Hey, that's called change. If you find somebody complaining, something changed.
That's right.
I mean, that's
good
just,
comment.
Yeah. So, let's talk a little bit about your time in high school, and what were some of your favorite parts of being in high school here. I mean, maybe not everybody's been in the old middle school, or the current middle school, it's got character. I mean, watching games from up above the up there and down into the.
Dear me! Well, of course, that was exciting to this. We thought we were world class then at the time. I don't have a lot of memories there. We had a good class. Some people are still putting together 60th high school
Wow.
reunion. And
Come
we appreciate.
on.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
pretty good, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah,
60th.
yeah.
My goodness.
And one of my closest friends was Norm Gissel, and Norm's down in Coeur d'Alene and pretty well known across the state now. But we enjoyed that, and we had good football teams at that time. We were classic football, but we just kind of wandered through high school. They labeled me most successful person for some reason, and but a subtitle under my picture in the monticular was probably better. It says, "Why sleep at home when you can sleep at school?" So I kind of I kind of wandered through school. Okay.
I love it. That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
So, you know, growing up here,
Sure.
a couple siblings, what have you noticed when you came? I mean, you obviously came back off and on over the years with your
Summered
parents
here,
up here,
yes,
so
pretty
you
much.
watched
Yeah.
Sandpoint change.
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I pay attention to those things because there's a city planner and all those kind of things. Well, I think it's one of the, nothing new to say this, but one of the great, beautiful communities in America. You know, there's 35,000 cities. I consider that we're one of the top.
Yeah, yeah.
And-
We can be in the. Hey, I think we're in the 1%.
Yeah. Don't get us started. We'll be talking about it for an hour here
Come on.
about everything. But it's gone through waves. So first we got to put in a little infrastructure. Hey, we got to have a hospital. Now let's take that sand down at this sandy point area and make it into a beach, and that was the energy that came. And so then people play on and get protected a little bit more. And then we go through another wave of infrastructure development, and then of course something was released when the byway came in, and that superstructure, and now we have another one with, of course, the great Memorial Park and all those things. So the kids go out and play more and those kind of things. So we have a lot of places to play right now.
We do.
Oh,
We do.
dear me, yeah, and we're happy to have so many California people here.
Yeah.
They bring creativity, of course, their resources, but willing to contribute. I talked to the pastor of North Summit, and he says, "I've never seen anything like this in my life." They want to contribute.
Yep.
They want to be part of this community.
They do.
Left, right?
Well,
we could go on and on
Well,
about
and
that.
I think a lot of, just as a side note, I think a lot of the people that are moving up here wanted to be part of their community where they lived too. It's not like they weren't actively involved there, and so they're bringing that same mindset here. You know, I think a
Yes.
lot of people are doing that, and I think it's. I had a conversation with somebody the other day about, you know, like it's not always a bad thing to have new people.
Yes.
You know, and you know, I'm always a silver lining kind of guy.
Yeah, I know you are.
You gotta chew on the meat and spit out the bones.
Yeah.
You gotta take the right perspective on this stuff. Otherwise, you're just miserable. You know, you're just upset and angry at stuff you can't fix or change, and might as well embrace some of the change. You know, we need to embrace it. I had a gal in our church who was raised here, you know, long term raised here. She went in the military and was gone for a bit, and she's back, and you know, she's like, you know what, we need fresh, you know, people. You know, and I had Dan McDonald on the show, you know, the county commissioner, and we were chatting a bit about this as well. You know, he's like, I wish they could all take a class on how we do things in North Idaho, you know. And,
Right.
And I think culturally, we can't lose sight of what makes this place so special, right? And it's the locals. It's the people who've been here since Farragut was active, the people who've lived here a long time. And a lot of people who've lived here a long time, don't hold the same views of what people think they do. It's like it's totally diverse. It's not
It
a
is.
monolithic political
Oh, dear me, no.
environment. It's not, but man, the way that we love and care for each other up here is
Exactly.
unique, and it's special.
Well, we could go down that lane for
Yeah,
some
let's do
time, and it's
For at least for a
it's
minute.
it's a spiritual climate in part. I've seen, and you've been right in the midst of this. You're a generation coming up in terms of pastorate, and another generation that's older, but you decided to blend together. And sometimes, you may have 10, 15, 20 pastors coming together. That is unparalleled.
Yeah.
I was speaking to
Yeah.
somebody in Bend, Oregon. They said, "Oh, I tried to get them together for the first time, and it broke out in arguments and every kind of thing."
Yeah.
And it struck me because he's
Yeah.
a businessman
Yeah.
trying to do that. So I've seen that, and that doesn't come easy.
You know what? There's a couple of people that I think really spearheaded that. The pastor, the old retired ministers from First Christian, First Baptist, and Sandpoint Christian Center.
Yes.
Dave and they really, and even we would say Ken Lawrence, and now Chad at the NAS. And,
Yeah.
Eric's been at Cedar Hills for almost 20 years now. So
Oh.
let that sink in for a minute.
Yeah,
I, I just think, there's been a real unique, for people that are watching or listening that don't know what we're talking about. We have a pastoral meeting of ministers. Not a pastors, but ministers. So even if you're a ministry you're not a pastor, but you lead a ministry, we do a weekly lunch where we gather, talk about what's going on, and then we
Yeah.
spend time praying for each
Yeah.
other,
Right.
and really trying to bless each other's ministries. And it's created a real sense of unity of the
Yes.
Spirit. In this area, it's very, very, very rare. You and I would go to San Jose, and I'd be
Right.
talking with ministers from all over the world,
Right.
and I'd say,
Truly.
"Well, here we're in this little mountain town, and it's gorgeous, and we get, we've got a town of say 4,400 or 4,800 people, and we got 44,000 people in the or 7,844,000 people
Yeah.
in the county.
Right.
We got 20 to 25 pastors that are willing to come together every week to pray for each other, and their jaw drops. They're like, "What?"
What?
Like unbelievable. And those are all seeds that have been sown, and so there's many of us that we know that that's a priority, to have that. And it's not just like the only people that don't like it are people that don't feel like it's okay to fellowship with people who don't agree with you. So like we'll have Lutheran, Baptist, Assembly of God. I mean, we're charismatic. We've got the Nazarenes, non-denominational. We've got Seventh-day Adventist. We've got all these different walks, all choosing to say, we can lay down our differences for a moment and come and support each other. We do it every week, and it's unique.
Well, it is. And one of the things I've observed, because I get a chance to be with you guys, is your generation embracing the older generation.
That's Gen Z.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
We're the bridge.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Our generation, and no, I think the calling on the generation is to be a bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so you could go down to Gen Z, but you can go up to silent generation.
Yep.
And so you guys, I've noticed that about you. You have that capability, and it's probably generational in part. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we were the first generation to be raised post the civil rights movement.
Oh.
And the mindset when we were raised was that we've come to a place where we value people not based on their skin color, not beta. So there's an entire middle. It's a small generation.
It is.
So Gen Z is very small.
That's right.
And so it's not huge, but we made a lot of babies. Okay, let's just say that. so because the millennials are huge, right? So the Gen Z, we were the first generation to be raised with the don't worry about the color.
Yeah.
Worry about the character. Like that mindset from Martin Luther King was embedded in our generation so deeply that it's deeply offensive to everybody who's Gen Z with what's currently happening in the culture wars.
Yeah.
We'll just call it that. So a lot of it's super offensive because it's never been on the radar.
Right.
It's never even been considered, especially for many people, it's just not on the radar. And for some things, it should be on the radar. Some things need to be on the radar that weren't on the radar. Totally get that. And yet, there's this unique thing about our generation that says that we're here to build bridges.
I like that.
I think they get it. I think we get it.
I like that. And that's kind of the theme of a Christian radio station here, too, isn't it?
Yeah, the bridge.
The bridge.
Yeah,
I appreciate what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's also interesting that we had that long wooden bridge, that you were just talking about, and also, the experience that everyone has over the Long Bridge.
Well, yeah, and
speaking of bridges,
how many people said I came across the bridge? I mean, come on!
I don't even know why I'm here. I don't even know why I'm here. Well, and this all adds into the spiritual climate.
It does,
because I think that there's something about this region and about this place that is destined for bringing broken things back together.
Oh, I like that.
Because I think there's something really important. That's what bridges do. It crosses from one side to the other, and usually there's a need on the other side.
Ooh, I like that.
I mean, oftentimes there is. So,
I
think there's something cool about that.
Yeah, we'd call that transformation, wouldn't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Going over the bridge. In fact, one little mellowing experience that I like to have, I don't do it now, but when people came to town, didn't know why they came to town, let's go for a walk along Pondere Bay Trail, and let's leave our colorized digital experience and come into black and white. And let's kind of slow down and we'll kind of set a phone aside. And many times, it's a big, deep breath. I've had people just almost explode with their lungs, saying, "Oh, I can breathe again," practically. They didn't say that, but I could detect that kind of thing. And that's why I wanted to get involved in National Day of Prayer and hanging around with people like you. We must protect that culture.
Yeah.
And I think we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, that's good. So when you think about changes that you've seen in Sandpoint over the years, what are the most dramatic changes that you think you've seen?
Well, one that might surprise people, but putting in Byway. Why? Because that was a 50-year division. Hazel Hall was on the first planning group to put that road right through there, in the 50s. And that has been a division for all those years, opposition. My brother would say one thing, I say another thing. But what happened out of that, just looking at it, we discovered our past. See, we didn't know that Sand Creek was no man's land.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want down there. If you want whorehouses down, you go ahead. We're just not going to mess with that kind of thing. And this is just my orientation, but when they pulled up 500,000 artifacts out of that and displayed them in the community,
I remember going to that, and seeing that.
Don't you? And we
yeah.
walked through there,
Yeah.
and the community observed, is this here?
Yeah.
Would that happen? And it
Right,
was...
the history came alive.
It did, and
Yeah.
it released out of the, I'll put it this way, out of the bowels of Middle Sandpoint, and cleaned it up.
Yeah.
And so when the shovel goes was, our governor coming there and sticking that shovel in there.
I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that is so significant because, that's the most expensive public road in Idaho. And to have flowers growing from our freeway in downtown, come on.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Well, you gotta love, at some point, you gotta love, what do they call it, pork? Right? Because that's how it happened. Okay, that's how that byway happened. Was it got tacked on legislatively.
Yeah.
So I got a great story about that.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So I was down at the Sand Creek Plaza, Dale Pine's old building.
Oh, sure.
Right, which is one we would hang out
Yeah,
at.
that's right.
Because my mortgage office was right below his.
Yeah, right.
His office, and on the third floor, looking over Sand Creek.
Yes.
And this is before the bypass came in, and you'll remember the old tree with the tire swing.
Oh, dear me, yes.
Right? I mean, the old tree. I mean, it was on the cover of USA Today, like this tire swing with the kid, like with Cedar Street Bridge in the background, and we had family in town over the holidays, and I think our family had rented a vacation rental to fit all of our family into that weekend, because our house didn't fit everybody, so we rented a place down on the lake, and it was just a great thing. But in the mortgage industry, I had a ton of work. Like, my busiest season was in the middle of winter.
No.
So unlike
Yeah.
I just crushed the winters for whatever reason. I don't know why, but and summers were good too, but my winters were busy. And I ended up needing to finish some documents. We were going to be sequestered. And so I'm like, it's Christmas Eve morning. And I said, honey, I'm going to go into the office. Give me 2 hours. I'm going to lock up some of the stuff so I can just be at rest, get everything done, so that, the Christmas Day and Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, the day after, I don't have to do anything, right? So I get in there early, like 5 o'clock in the morning. Right? I was an early riser. Not as early anymore, but sometimes. So I get up, go into the office, and it's dark. It's dark. So I'm there about 2 hours, 7 o'clock, rolls around, lights coming up. This bulldozer just comes over, and I watch him.
You saw it.
I watch him push the tire swing tree down, and he backs it up, turns it off, gets out, and walks back over to his car. That was the only thing he was there to do at a time when nobody would see him.
I remember it later that day. What happened?
It.
You saw it.
I saw him do it.
Oh, man.
And I was like, because I have huge windows in my office facing it, I was like, whoa.
Okay, so he was down there with the cat or something, and just pushed it over.
Just pushed it over and left. Just left it laying there. It was there for like 5 days, just laying there. I know. And everyone's like, no,
that's our life.
Oh man, it was.
But what a memory that is.
But I was glad about. I think the bypass has been good for the community.
I do too.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm so crazy about Dover Bay, and the 9 communities that they put together there. That's record setting.
Yeah. All right, so you've seen some changes.
Yeah.
What do you think's the best change that you've seen?
Best change.
Because there's lots of kinds of change, right?
Well,
there's good
there
change,
are.
bad change.
There
but
are.
What's the best change that you've seen?
They're best. Well, best, I'm not sure, but it's the climate, and that's hard to measure in a way, but still the care for the community, care for the community, that people really care. And we were injured when we couldn't have Lost in the 50s. to have that celebration.
For the first time in ever.
Yeah, thank you, Carol, for doing that, for sure. So that's one thing. The best, I think, even though it had a hardship for some, when Coldwater closed, and the best of the best stayed here.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Dude, the intellectual and entrepreneurial capital that stayed is pretty amazing.
Yes.
So, I was touring the Envision Center
Yeah.
with our board, and one of the people that was with us said, we're just walking back, and I was like, I feel a little traumatized just coming back on the campus. Because they hadn't been back in so long. They were like, I feel a little traumatized coming back here.
Yeah, well,
But
okay.
man, and of course that's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Start multiple businesses. And it's awesome. I'm super grateful for the great businesses that we have. But man, it was hard for a lot of people to see that because it was stable. Right, it was a steady machine until it wasn't, and then people just decided to make their own way.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
It's been awesome.
And another entrepreneur, of course, is Lighthouse and what they've done.
Yeah.
See, he could have sold out so easily, and the jobs are 400, 500 jobs gone.
Yeah.
But so thank you so much to that family for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess it's people. Do we have superstructures? Hey, we have this memorial park down there. That is world class.
It really is.
And not only that, let's put it on the lake. Okay, and let's have the ospreys there and have the cameras on them.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Those are touches that make a community different.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working with somebody right now, and he works on the healing gardens.
Okay.
And he was doing the piece with Hazel Hall there, and painting it and just giving it love. And I says, why do you spend so much time on this? You're volunteering. He says, it just depends on how great you want your city to be.
Come on.
Isn't that just
Whew.
awesome? And
civic pride.
Yes, civic pride. Oh, and just the respect of not graffitiing, not tagging all over, but having a place so people can tag. Down the alley, there between First and Second.
right by iCarts.
Yeah, all of those kind of things. So we love it. But if you have to place this one place, I guess it would still be on the deck of Trinity.
Yeah,
one of those days.
I'm real curious how that all is going to change, man, because I am not anxious about losing that spot. So.
Yeah. Well, we're just going to say, because of the traditions of the improvements, that it's going to be a dramatic improvement.
I think so. Yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah.
But, man, learning how to change, learning how to embrace change is hard. And you gotta look at the vision. You gotta look bigger. You gotta look past this change to see what's the fruit really gonna look like. And sometimes we can do that with rose-colored glasses, or they can be very, very dark. And I think we all gotta pick our filters a little better, maybe.
Boy, that's good, and that goes back to leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. I know that, and the definition of it and that. But we grew up in the '60s, and you can read the books that says this is a decade of dreams, because of JFK and how he released in that 1,000 days that he was alive. But we also had 4 major assassinations. And in the turbulence of the '68 elections and all the things that occurred. We were back in Washington, D.C.
riots
at that time.
oh my gosh.
We were right in the midst of that ourselves, Leslie and myself. And hey, you're going to have to be a little flexible to get out of this decade with the right kind of mindset.
Yeah.
And so,
that's a good way to say it. You're gonna have to be flexible to get out of this decade. with the right kind of. That's great. I totally agree.
Yeah.
No, that's really good, Ross.
So,
Well, I think we could probably do this all day. Do you have any, funny stories or anything that you thought, might be fun to share?
funny stories. Well, I went into hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes over our escapade, and that's where so much of our life was. If I brought Leslie in, she'd have 5 stories right away.
And she'd whip them out in a heartbeat.
Oh,
My
I
gosh.
tell you, she likes fun. That's how she is built, and that's so good. And Papa Ross was witty. Hazel was charming. She raised a whole collection of ladies after Ross died, and in fact, she had a party when she was 90, and there were about 40 of them at Trinity. These are my daughters now. These are my daughters, and she built such a magnificent life from age, 77 to 96 when she passed away. And she, after she went through, Ross had Alzheimer's, the 36-hour experience, as they call it, and she grew out of that, and she blossomed at a whole nother level. And I think the 80s, people in their 80s and 90s, if you keep your health as best you can have some of the greatest experiences. And she sure did. And she gave me so much in those 5 years that I got a chance to be with her. I woke up in San Diego in the morning, and I had a dream of Hazel crying all night. And I called her the next morning. I said, "Did you have a rough night?" And she said, "I cried all night." I said, "What happened?" "Oh, it's so hard to care." And I said, "Why don't we move up here? Why don't we do that?" And so, because we have that kind of flexible lifestyle, we said, yeah. And so, in 90 days, we were up here. We said we'd be here for 6 months, and we were here 5 years at that time, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that was a super experience. And then we traveled up here again. For 10 years, I took 40 trips up here to Sandpoint to try to negotiate the Pend Oreille Bay Trail and working with the railroad and the cities and the lockouts and which it was part of the experience and necessary. But to see what people are enjoying with Pend Oreille Bay Trail, and it hasn't even started yet. We're putting together some things right now to commemorate Ross and Hazel, but you'll have the underpass, okay,
Yeah,
and that'll connect to the bike path, and you go all the way up to Schweitzer, or you can come back down Sand Creek. And so really, we've opened 6 miles of waterfront in this last years here. If you measure it, 1.5 miles on one side of Sand Creek, 1.5 miles on the other, 1.5 miles plus Pend Oreille Bay Trail.
Amazing.
And that was a dream that I had, is that everybody has it, but it's community on the lake.
Yeah.
And we had a 2-lane bridge to get to the water, or you had to go 15 miles to public beach, one place, almost the same in the other way in the 2 highways. This is obscene. It isn't right.
It's
and
not
so
right.
and
Yeah,
so we'll
wow.
have it so people can pour through the underpass up there at the Pend Oreille end, and that's going to happen. And so it's just a beautiful time.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Great. Well, congrats on that, because I know that you put a lot into that.
We did.
It's very exciting. Very
We
exciting.
did 40 years, but Papa Ross had the vision, and we found that in a little notebook, one of those spiral little notebooks like that. And he says, "How do we keep it the way it is without changing it?" and he was speaking of that area, which he
that
couldn't go.
property.
He'd never walked that. Why? Because it's all slid and so
Wow.
we could go on and on
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But
No,
the community has poured into that. Major contributors outside the state. It says, hey, I want to be part of this. And so I think our greatest times are ahead.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, Ross, thanks for coming on the Bonner Breakdown.
Well, I see what time it is, and we had quite a conversation.
That's good. That's good.
I love being with you.
Yeah, always a pleasure. And this will be airing on Friday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll shoot it over to you.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
That's good. Great
All right.
being with you. Thanks.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. You can find out more about this podcast at bonnerbreakdown.com. You can also support this show and get personal video updates and thoughts from our host at patreon.com/bonnerbreakdown.